All right. All right. We hear you complaining about the timer. You know,
Two minutes
but
behind.
I hear you. What use is a timer if we're not
I
going to
suppose
use
if you
it?
don't follow it, oh, you're gonna make
Yeah,
me
I'm
ill,
making you sick,
Bobby.
aren't I? I got to move some things around so that
Okay,
this
while you're doing that, I'll tell you about another experience I had this
Yeah.
past week, getting sick from a screen.
I love uh stories about you getting sick. So, let's hear it.
Ah, God. um, but it's a happy story because it's the Dragon Age story I got to finally
Good, good,
after a
because
decade
this'll be
play
good.
Dragon
Because
Age.
I was gonna ask you about how things are going with Dragon Age.
Yes, yes. So I jumped in like my mouse and keyboard, like revving hard, set up all the settings, like no like minimal blur, no shaky cam. That's like a guarantee that
Sure,
I'll get
sure.
sick. That kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, here we go. I dive in, character creator. Yes, let's go. Make my character look as much as me. Yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers.
No, pause your story for a second. I'm fixing your
Okay.
camera, and while I'm fixing it, nobody will be able to hear you. Hold on. Hold on. Cancel. Cancel. Discard. Okay, they can hear you again, and I'm gonna work on it. There's something I didn't open. That's all. I didn't get Complex Bobby in here. That's all. But keep telling your story. They
Oh,
can hear
that's
you.
right. Complex Poppy's not
Yeah.
here. Hi, everybody. Yes, the content you tune in for, how Mora got sick this week. But yeah, so I get into it and I just cannot control this game. I am slipping and sliding all over the place. I'm looking up. I'm like that noob in Fortnite who's staring at their toes.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get the hang of the combat. I'm doing so badly, like, and it's not fun, and I feel nauseous, and I'm so like upset and annoyed, and
Because you've been waiting for this game for a long time, and you're like,
so long,
you're not enjoying it.
so
That's not good. That's not
long.
good.
Yes, um, and yeah, so I'm like disappointed, and it's there's parts of it that are different than I expected, and I'm kind of getting bummed, and but I took a break, had some lunch, felt a little better, and then here's what I did, and it's weird that this works. Maybe we should do an episode on motion sickness because I like backed my chair way up,
Mm-hmm.
totally turned off the motion blur effects. Um, I changed the like the field of view, like it was like really like narrow. You could only see like this much, and I
Yeah.
like zoomed it way out, which also made combat easier. And then I plugged in a controller and
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Okay, this is way better." I have not played like a PC game like this. I don't think ever. Not in like 15 years. So I yeah, after that, smooth sailing. Everything was great. I went on a Reddit thread and they were like, "Here, do these 4 things." And I did all
Oh
those
wow.
things and it was awesome.
That's great.
So So yeah, after that, it was like I just launched into the game and it's got all the great story notes and interesting companions and I get flashbacks of the old Dragon Ages as I'm walking through. I'm like, "Oh, I remember a place like this and I remember a place like
Oh,
that and I remember seeing this," and it was so cool. So,
that is
and I'm
cool.
kind of getting the hang of like the different feel of this version of the game. So,
I've heard a lot of
it's
people
been really great.
saying that they like it because it has like a Mass Effect feel a little bit with the way the
Mhm,
combat works, and
mhm.
I know you also like Mass Effect, so
Yeah, it's a lot more Mass Effect. I was expecting because the previous games were more Baldur's Gate, like, you'd pause, you'd plan your turns, you'd, like, know all your interactions, you have all these, like, fiddly little, potions and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And they had stripped it down already in the last couple iterations. Um, not as much with Inquisition, but anyway, it was like it's even more stripped down, and so I'm just like, okay, this is a different thing. I'm not playing Baldur's Gate here.
Yeah.
I'm not playing Origins. This is a new way to play it, and the story's there, and yeah, it's a little less sandboxy than I would have hoped, but
Well,
yeah, it's been good.
I want to ask some more questions about it. I have one particular question for me, but then I want to hear your review because Logan even says that that his wife is waiting on your review before she buys it. Um, so
Oh, what really? Oh,
lots riding on this.
wow.
But what
Well,
I want to know is
I want to know if I get a cut from BioWare because
what I want to know is yeah, you get 10% of that one sale. Um, what I want to know is, and in Canadian, that's like $1,000. Um, what I want to know is how is the controller support on the game? Is there native controller support, or did you, like
yeah,
okay,
yeah, like it's a console game. Like you can play it on a console. So I'm
so
just
it
using
works
an
really
Xbox
well
controller.
on a controller?
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
because I was thinking of getting it on Steam. It's on Steam, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking of
yeah,
getting it on Steam so that I could bounce between my PC and my Steam Deck.
right.
Um and but it would have to have good controller. Like it'd have to play well on a controller for me to do that. And so cuz when I can get a game on my Steam Deck and it plays well on the controller, then that means I can play it on my computer, I can play it in bed, I can hook it up to the dock on the TV in the living room and play it whenever I feel like just being in the same room as Stephanie instead of locked in my office, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, you can play it a little bit more. Um,
all right, so how many hours are you
Probably
into the game?
10 maybe
10 hours? Okay.
12.
That's pretty good.
I got it. I took some time off to do it, so I
Yeah.
got a respectable way in, and then I went away for the weekend, so I haven't touched it since like Friday. I played like a tiny bit today, but yeah, it's like 100-hour game apparently. So to have done 10 hours in a week is unusual, and I don't think that'll happen very often
Right,
for
sure.
me. I think my biggest risk is I'm gonna forget what's happening in the story. I'll be like, what is this? Who
That
is that? I don't get it."
that would often happen to me. That used to happen to me a lot with RPGs. I think we've talked about this
Mm.
before. I would play either too small sessions or I'd go too long between being able to play and when I sat down and played it again, I'd be like, "What is going on?" And then I'd have to start over.
Yeah, yeah, it's so confusing. So I'll try to keep the gaps to like a couple days or whatever, but who knows? Like you never
Yeah.
know when you're gonna get a chance to jump in and play. And I'm I read every little note. I read all the codex. I look at all the
Oh, do you?
things.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
Cuz you're
just because
really into
it's
the story and the lore of the game, right?
yeah, I love the lore of the game. And it makes it so rich. Like there's always little Easter eggs that are really interesting. Sometimes if you read enough notes, you even get like kind of clues on where to go in the story
Aren't there
and what's
books?
kind of happening
Did you ever
next.
read the books?
I haven't. I did watch the Netflix show a little bit,
Wait,
but
there was a
couldn't really
Netflix
get
show, a
into it.
Dragon Age Netflix
Yeah,
show?
yeah. Yeah,
I didn't know
but
that.
I don't know, I didn't feel super connected to the characters. I didn't get far with that one. But yeah, I know there's a role playing game, like a tabletop game, and there's books. So
Wow.
plenty out there,
Yeah.
plenty out there.
So then give us your review. Where are you right now on a scale of 1 to 10? What do you give it so far?
1 to 10. I think an 8.
An 8? That's
I
pretty
think an
good.
8.
That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. It's super solid. My initial disappointment was, I think, why I
Almost
wouldn't give it
vomiting.
any higher. Like just the vomiting, but also like the sort of difference in what I was expecting, right? Of in
Sure.
terms of gameplay. But that's just my expectations. I don't think a lot of other people were expecting that. And if you love Mass Effect and were like, "Man, on Dragon Age, this is the one to jump in on." Like,
That's a positive in my direction because I liked Mass Effect a lot. I've always been kind of like I've always dipped my toes in Dragon Age, but fallen off of it for one reason or another. Not always any singular reason, but just
Mm.
um, I've always liked the idea of the world of Dragon Age. So maybe this one will be really, uh, you know, maybe I'll be more receptive to this one or something. Um,
It's
so
accessible. It's accessible. You don't
accessible. That's
have
the
to
word I
have
was
played
looking for.
anything for it to make sense. Anything before it, um, because they walk you through all the details in a good like story embedded way. You kind of learn all the different things that you need to know.
Hold
But
on,
yeah,
sorry, I got distracted.
mhm, it's all good.
Got a person in here. What's up?
Tweep Dragon Age 2
No,
was indeed the
you
best
couldn't
Dragon
ask
Age
mom
game.
about that.
I don't know if I could I don't know what I'll think at the end of this one because I found with Dragon Age 2 similar actually took me a minute to get into it and I played like from like I don't know from the start to this there's like a one really big plot point where you make a big decision and I hated the result of my decision and I was like nah so I started again and went a totally different way. And then I played it 3 more times after that. So, if this one's like Dragon Age 2, then I'm hook, line, and sinker.
Well, I'm excited. I'm gonna try it, but I have to get out of my current um, rhythm with what's going on with World of Warcraft right now. I have to find a little bit of extra time before I can do it. But that's like next on my list of things I want to dive into. Um, and there's usually some time between seasons of the World of Warcraft play cycle. So
There you go.
I will. I'm going to be doing that. I'll let you know when I get it.
And I think to scratch my, like, complex RPG play itch, I'm probably gonna play Baldur's Gate 2 after this. Because
2.
I've never played it, yeah, and I
Oh.
do have it, like, I bought the bundle a while back, but didn't get far, and then, um, yeah, so I think I might give that a whirl. See how it goes, but we shall see.
I'm still trudging away on my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough
Oh, really?
with our mutual friend.
Nice,
And
nice.
we're having a good time. Where it's fun. It's fun. What else is there to say? Baldur's Gate 3, great game.
Baldur's Gate 3 is excellent. Highly recommend. I did start a second playthrough of that one too, but
Oh yeah.
it's gonna be shelved for a while.
Yeah. Oh well, no doubt. So in your second playthrough, are you gonna do anything? Are you gonna focus on anything for Baldur's Gate 3? A particular approach? Like you gonna do like a?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing Dark Urge
That's what I was
playthrough.
gonna ask you.
Yeah,
You want
yeah.
to do a Dark Urge playthrough? That'd be fun.
Because I didn't clue in the first time around. I was like, what is that? I don't know, whatever. So I did my whole thing, and then I was like, oh, this would be a completely different game, and it totally is.
I
It is
know.
like
I heard of someone who was playing a Dark Urge playthrough as a paladin.
ah, crazy.
Which was
Yeah.
because they were trying to see, and I think they might have done it or they got pretty far. They were trying to see if they could play this Dark Urge playthrough without breaking their oath as a
Hmm.
paladin, and I think they might have been able to pull it off. Cause like I don't know, I can't remember like the things you do under the effects of the Dark Urge if you're not consciously making those choices or something like that, it doesn't break the oath or something weird like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was
Yeah, basically, for those who don't know, it just means your main character has the urge to do terrible things,
yeah.
really. So that's yeah, that is what I'm trying for this next playthrough. But uh but yeah, I can never play the bad guy. Like I'm so bad at it. I tried with Mass Effect because there's
Yeah.
Paragon and Renegade. I tried to choose all the bad choices and it was like, ugh, all the Renegade choices, I should say.
Yeah.
And it was like hard every single time. I think I quit like a third of the way through and just went Paragon again because I was like, I can't do
Yeah.
this.
Well,
I don't know why I can't do it.
when I'm playing an RPG, I feel connected to the character, right? And so I sort of like when I'm playing something like that, where because I tried the same thing actually in Mass Effect to do
Hmm.
to it's Renegade, right? Yeah.
Renegade, yeah.
And I also couldn't get through it because I feel like it gets to a point where I no longer feel connected to the character,
That's the thing,
and
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
feel connected to it when I'm playing it through. I think I could probably pull off like like an evil character or renegade character in a game if I was doing it for like a stream or something. Like if I had a purpose and goal that drove me to do it, but not if I'm just sitting down and trying to relax and play a game, because I just like to feel connected to the characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, shush, Alexa. She's like, I'm not quite sure how to help you with that. I guess she was just felt bad for me and not being able to connect to my evil characters.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But
So Cypher apparently would have no problem because he's played 2 runs as Paladin and immediately and purposely broke his oath as soon as possible. So, yeah, that's good. Good for you. My husband's the same. He's like, ha, 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 I did this to them, and I'm like, how? How can you do that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 though is dark. Like it gets to some pretty intense places. So it depends on the game too. Like we'll see how that
I
goes.
love
I don't
the
know if I can
Baldur's Gate
fully
3
do it.
story because there's a lot of nuance to it, right? So
Yeah,
there are a
yeah,
lot of
and you're
like
never
there are a lot of like ambiguous, like morally ambiguous choices you could make and stuff.
the only thing that matters is that I romance Asterion this time. That's the only thing that matters. So I'll just
yeah.
I'll sell my soul if I have to do that.
I can't help but romance Shadowheart every time.
Yeah, it's funny because I when I first act, second act, I was like, oh, she's so annoying.
She is a little
And
annoying.
then she does have a redemption arc, and I was like, all right, she's okay.
during this playthrough I have right now, I'm playing a rogue, and my rogue I think was kind of like ooh, she's a nice looking lady, and then he was a little annoyed with her at first, right? Because he's like, oh my god, will you just shut up about the
You're talking about your character as though it's not you.
Well, so I often you've played role playing games with me before. I often experience my characters as if they have a life of their own, and I'm just a vessel.
Yes.
So I often refer to characters that I play in tabletop RPGs and these kinds in the third person. But so my character is like, oh, she's really annoying. Can you just shut up about the like, okay,
yeah,
we get it. You don't
religion,
like saloon.
Yeah, I know. Like, will you just relax for 2 seconds?
Yeah, but then he starts like getting into it, and he's like, oh, wait a minute, all this talk about Shadow, and like I kind of get it, So he's kind of in the middle of, I think he might be swayed into her cult.
Don't give me that crap. Don't give me. I know exactly what he's been swayed to do.
Well, it did happen recently when she was like, I'd like to get to know you better. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
You would? Oh, you would. I would try that. I would try romancing Shadowheart too. Now that I don't absolutely hate her. I was like, she's just mean all the time to everyone. And it just made me so annoyed in that first bit.
Not that I want to spoil it for Logan. Spoil this game that's been out forever, Logan. But it early on, it's not Shadowheart's. It's not fair to Shadowheart that the first other character she encounters is what's her name, the Githyanki, who is also really intensely like, okay, we get it.
Okay, you know what is crazy too? My first playthrough, because that's a really important character in the game.
Yeah.
That you encounter, and the way I played it, okay, this is a bit of a spoiler, but it's possible to do this. She died.
Oh, yeah.
Before she even joined my party.
Oh,
and
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
like, if you don't go up to where she's doing her thing,
Oh, and
and
you
come
don't
back
help
later,
her?
she's dead. Yeah, she's dead. Because
Oh,
I didn't, like, rescue her or whatever, like, at the right time or whatever. Anyway, she, like
and you just went with it.
and I was like, "Well," it was, like, right at the end of act 1, and I was like, "I can't I don't think I can go back, like, I think I just gotta let this go
Yeah.
and respec as a warrior," so I did. 'Cause I was like, "I need to hit her." And then I got that other lady who hits really hard. Oh,
Yeah.
no, the druid lady, then I made her my warrior. So she's like, "I love nature," but she had this, like, massive sword, and she's like, "Wa-bum! Wa-bum!" It was awesome. I respect like 7 times in that game. I was like, "I don't know what I wanna do."
Hey,
I was like,
they
"Shadowheart's
make
so
it
annoying, I'm
easy.
gonna be the cleric." And
They
then
make it easy, so just go for it, you know?
Yeah.
Shadow fart. I like that tweet, yeah.
You can resurrect her in some cases? Oh, that's cool. I did try to find because I also when I play RPGs, I'm like, "How to do this? Romance Asterian guide," and I'm like, "These are the
Yeah, yeah.
selections of a dialogue I must
There's
use."
nothing wrong with
So
that.
I'm not yeah, I'm not along for the ride. I'm calculating, but I didn't see that, so that's cool, Cypher.
Yeah, like in this current playthrough, there's a character that's really hard to get. It's if you remember, you know the Goblin Camp in the first act.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know the one you're talking about. I didn't
Yeah,
get her either.
yeah, we deliberately are working on making sure that she joins our camp. Um, and so, but it's not easy to do. You kind of have to go
It's not
through
impossible. I did look that through.
yeah, it's not easy to do, but you have to go through a series of steps that you might not think to do, you know? And
Yeah,
so,
it's not it's you kinda gotta come at it sideways. I read about that one too because I want her in my party.
yeah,
The 2 people I didn't get in my party, I want them in, and
yeah.
then yeah. Oh, the other one I'd wanna who was the druid guy? I tried to romance him too,
Oh, Halson.
the one you saved. Yeah. I can't remember who I ended up with. What did I think I just hopped around. Oh, yeah, Karlak. She was my lady. Um,
Karlak is amazing. Karlak is
oh,
the
the
best.
best. Oh, she's such a good character.
Yeah.
Everyone who does not Minthara, yeah. Everybody who does not play Baldur's Gate has shut us down now.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. It's all right.
This game sounds intimidating. Like I can make so many wrong choices. Logan, it's true, but it depends. Like if you're willing to accept, right? That's the thing with good RPGs. You have to accept that you can't do it
Yeah,
all,
so
or that you have to do
honestly, Logan,
17 playthroughs.
the way to play Baldur's Gate 3 and the way to play it is just as long as you're having fun. I'm stopping myself before I say what I was about to say cuz really just play it however you want to.
True.
But there are a lot of games where there's like you can make right or wrong choices, but Baldur's Gate 3 really is such a great single player D&D campaign, like and in
Oh yeah.
D&D you just make choices and then you keep playing with the consequences of those choices and they've done such an amazing job of making it so that you can continue through the story with basically anything that happens. There are seemingly very important characters that can die and it's okay. You just keep
That's
going
fine.
and
Or
you'll
they'll
have a
leave your
different
party.
playthrough than
They'll be like,
someone
I'm not doing this.
who played where that character didn't die.
Hmm.
There's so many ways that you can go. You can befriend the entire goblin camp and talk your way through that, and they can be great buds of yours, or you can murder every last one of them.
I did the
Like
second one.
yeah, I did too the first time through. We're
I couldn't. How could I? I don't know. I felt really bad for the other people. It feels like a binary choice, but sometimes there's a third option too.
we're kind of the way we're playing through right now is we're kind of like with a wink and a nod befriending them but we really think goblins are idiots. We're like,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
sure,
sure, let's
okay.
do this.
Oh,
Okay,
good
that's
idea.
cool. I
Okay,
love
well, we're
that.
gonna untie this guy so that we can torture him and not you. um,
I also love sneaking around in places you're not supposed to be in that game
yeah,
because it's 2 or 3 times they have these little interjections where a guard will find you or whatever,
yeah,
and, like, I would be in a place sneaking and stealing something under their nose, and the dialogue options are like, are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't supposed to be here," or whatever, and then I just go right back to stealing. I love that.
There was one recently. So I do have to give you some context for the shenanigans. We gave both of our characters, mine and the friend I'm playing with, we gave ourselves a backstory of our characters have a backstory together. Because I'm a rogue and he's a bard, and we were I was a ne'er do well and he was some other nobleman or something like that, and through some circumstances we at one point decided I was going to leave a life of crime and we were going to start a private investigation company together. And then on our first investigation, we ended up at the beginning of this game, so you'll know what I mean by saying that. Like somehow we mysteriously end up on this place, right?
Right.
Um, So we're always like going at things sort of like trying to talk our way through, but I'm also an ex-criminal, and so I was sneaking into this place trying to pick a lock, and someone comes in and they're like, "What are you doing? You're trying to unlock this thing." And one of the options was like, "Oh, I was just admiring the I was just admiring the metalwork on this lock." And like it totally works, and it's just so funny the way the options that they give you to just like.
It's so good.
Anyway, it's a great game. Good. It's a great game, especially if you're playing with somebody.
I love that game.
And you can just laugh.
We should jump in with me. We should do some sessions with me and Cassie and you and Palmer. That'd be
that would be really fun. Yeah,
that'd be a blast. Just to jump in and play a little.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd be sneaking everywhere. I'd be a big problem. But I'm like, oh, the rest of them have the story handled.
Yeah.
Anywho, Barry, Inhumane, a staff meeting at 8:30 p.m. What does that mean?
Well, he is on the West Coast, so it's 5:30 where he is.
5:30. Okay,
Still,
I mixed up. I thought he was a Torontonian.
It is outside of normal business hours.
That is a late meeting. That is a late meeting. All right. Well, we'll see you later, Barry.
I guess I should open the show notes. Is this episode 219?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna eat some dessert. It's a really great idea before you record a podcast to eat chocolate mousse.
Lots of milk, chocolate, and sugar coating your throat.
Sticks to the roof of my mouth. So good.
So these are the secrets they teach you in podcasting school.
I'm gonna sound so crisp.
Yeah.
They don't teach you in podcasting school. Okay, it's time.
Yeah, let me pop out the chat so I can put this in a better place.
There's calls for a Baldur's Gate 3 podcast.
Oh my gosh. It would just be us.
Don't tempt us with a good time.
It would just be us like.
And then I did this. Oh,
yeah, it would be the most obnoxious. You know how like
so annoying.
You know how you like hate hearing people talk about their characters. You know, that would just be what it was the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Like, oh, let me tell you about the back. Like, I just kind of went into that right now, right? Like, let me tell you the backstory of our rogue and
right.
bard.
It's really amazing how much you don't care about other people telling you that. Like,
yeah,
like I love RPGs. I'm in there, get me all that cool stuff. But as soon as somebody's like, well, in my other game, I'm like, la 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 la.
Right.
Sometimes it's interesting, but not always.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes you just have to indulge yourself and do it for a moment, and then But yeah.
I try to make it snappy if I tell a story.
Yeah, for sure.
I try to make it snappy.
But as a person who used to be in the tabletop RPG world and go to conventions all the time, I heard my fair share.
I'm sure you were very
characters' backstories.
Okay, I will tell you one though.
Yeah.
I will tell you one. Sorry, I'm doing it now.
Let's do it.
Whatever. You guys are here. You love us, right? Stop me if I've told you. Well, don't, because they haven't told them.
Yeah.
I have a bard who, instead of singing, she makes passive aggressive comments. It's amazing. but also a little disheartening because I'll be like, I'll do like vicious mockery and I'll be like, "You didn't have anything else to wear?" And the whole party, all of my people playing at the table with me, none of them laugh.
Oh my
They
god.
all they all cringe and they go and like a little intake of breath every time. Like there's no reaction. And last time I just laughed, I was like, I feel bad because they all just feel it in their souls. They're
That's
like,
funny.
this is awful. I'm like, sorry.
No,
So yeah, it's been really fun.
that's really great. I would love that.
Mm.
I would love that. I wish I was playing that game with you. That would be great.
I'm always like looking up passive aggressive comments beforehand,
Yeah.
seeing what I can do. So
That's a good approach to a bard because because of the way you can do that, right? You can like research things you're going to say ahead of time.
exactly. Yeah. And she's a kindergarten teacher, so when she encourages people, she's like, "Okay, friends, everybody, we can do it." Like that kind of which comes very naturally to me having been a teacher.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's that part's easy, but it's actually hard to be passive aggressive on purpose.
Is it?
It's easy to do it by
Oh,
accident
like
or
in
to
the
like,
yeah.
like in the moment, like I've not like I've never been passive aggressive, but to like deliberately be like, I will choose passive aggression because it really does come from truly feeling rage and aggression and filtering it
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And to embody that is really hard.
Got to go method.
That's right. All right. That's it.
Ready for a podcast?
I'm so ready.
Wait, we haven't started podcasting yet. This is a podcast, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
About what? Baldur's Gate?
Yeah. It's our Baldur's
Okay.
Gate podcast.
Let's kick it
All
off.
right. So I've got my notes pulled up. And
As do I.
do we have anything for the top of the show?
I don't have anything.
Well, we got to come up with something. I hear a keyboard. Mora's Googling
No, I'm answering the chat.
what to say at the beginning of a podcast. Oh, I'm going to do that. GPT. Let's see what happens. Let's go to Chat GPT.
Oh
See.
boy, it's gonna be like personal anecdotes.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, here we go. Ready?
I'm ready.
What should I vamp about during the first 5 minutes of my science podcast? I have a co-host. That's important. You got to give it parameters, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If this is good, I'm just not going to tell you, and I'm just going to do it.
You know this is being recorded.
Yeah, I know.
All right, what do we got?
Hold on.
ChatGPT has to listen to every podcast, and then it will tell us.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Ready? This is not going to work. For the first 5 minutes, start with a warm, engaging intro that sets the tone and introduces both you and your co-host. Here are some ideas to kick off. Number 1, introductions and backstory. Share who you are, how you both met. No, this is not going to work. Number 2, topic teaser. Briefly introduce the episode's topic with a fun, relatable hook. For example, if you're covering clouds or wind, see it listened about science. Share a quick fact or a quirky observation. Like, ever wonder why the sky looks like cotton candy some days?
Ooh, ChatGPT.
Yeah,
You're getting there. You're
friendly
new.
banter.
You're
That's
new.
the number 5. That's our speed. Showcase a bit of your chemistry. A fun short back and forth can have. Yeah, I know. I want to know what the fun short back and forth can be. Do you have an idea of what a fun short back and forth topic could be?
I'm so invested in this. I can't even think of a topic other than video games. I could still.
Absolutely. Here are a few playful, science-inspired back and forth topics that could set a fun, casual tone. What's your superpower? Worst science class memory. That's actually not a bad one, but
That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah.
Team day versus team night. What? Start with a debate on whether day or night is better. That was a lame one, ChatGPT.
Wow, that's wild.
The most
You
mind
can
blowing.
see that the
Yeah.
ChatGPT has clearly never experienced day or night
Or had a or debated them with another
or
person.
any friendly banter.
The most mind blowing science fact you recently learned. Well, that's kind of what we like to do in general. I just don't have one. So it would be, hey, Maura, or you'd say, hey, Bobby, what's the most mind blowing science fact you recently learned? And I'd be like, I don't have one. And then there'd be the end. That wouldn't work. Anyway, this isn't
weirdest
working.
science fact, you know. BioCow, that's a good one. Weirdest science fact.
All right. Well, that didn't work.
No, it didn't. That's accurate.
We're just gonna go with it. Let's see what happens if we wing it.
Yeah, let's just wing it.
Yeah.
I have a question, kind of.
Oh, see? This is what happens.
It's good news. All Around Science is in no danger of being replaced by AI.
Yes, that is good news.
I'm so heartened that all you fine folks have stuck around for 40 minutes of us talking. This is the Seinfeld part of the show where we talk about nothing.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go. Hey everyone, it's November 11th, 2024, and you're listening to All Around Science. My name is Maura Armstrong.
And I'm Bobby Frankenberger, and we are two huge fans of science here to get you, to get you caught up. You know what? 218 episodes, I got it just right. And 219, we're not re-recording that, Maura. We're going with
not?
it. Nope.
We don't even know what we're here for. Why are we here?
We're here to get you caught up
science.
on what's going on in the world of science and just generally geek out about science stuff. How is it going, Maura? That flub notwithstanding.
I had the weirdest experience this weekend.
Is that right?
So I went to the mountains with some friends. It was great. We had a good time. We went to some hot springs, which inspired today's episode.
Oh, cool.
And so it was weekend trip, 2 nights. Sunday morning, I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to sneeze. I sneezed like 17 times. Blow my nose, sneeze, blow my nose, sneeze. Like I'm going through this Kleenex box.
Do you have like seasonal allergies or anything?
Never, not a single time in my entire life. And suddenly I have an allergic reaction on a random Sunday morning in this hotel room. Wow. And I was like, what is happening? Then my friend, same thing, starts sneezing.
What?
Starts running nose, same thing. She's never had an allergy in her whole life. Then she starts going through anaphylaxis. Like she can't breathe.
No way. Are you kidding? This is real life?
No, real life. She's like, I don't think I can breathe. And she's like panicking, like standing there. Thankfully, we have a friend who has like a bazillion allergies and was like, knew exactly what to do, gave her the meds she needed. She was fine. But like, and I didn't get any anaphylaxis, but like the whole day, it was like my face was on fire and like my eyes were itchy and burning and my nose wouldn't stop running. I kept sneezing. I went through like another half a box of Kleenex the rest of the day. And it was just crazy. And I'm totally fine. Today is Monday and it's no...
You didn't figure out what happened?
I have no idea.
Biological I have no idea what warfare.
It was. Maybe. This space that we were in was not like top-notch clean. Like it was fine, but it was like we found some dog hair and there was like a clogged drain and like that kind of stuff.
Oh, what could it have been? What do you think? You got surely the two of you talked about it.
Well, we did, and we were like, none of us came up with anything. We have no idea. It could be something in the area that isn't near where we live, possibly. But like, what? Pollen? Not pollen. It's November. Like,
yeah, well,
so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. That is weird. Something in the room that you were. Oh wow.
Yeah, and the other
those
thing
are
we're
not
talking about,
mild reactions you're describing.
No,
These are.
It was intense. It was intense, and I guess we shared some food, but like, why would that? It wasn't at the
did you
time that we were
shove the food up your
eating.
nose or rub it into your eyes?
Exactly. Exactly. I am mystified, absolutely mystified by this situation. And I was like, "Oh, this is what allergies feel like?" Unsubscribe.
So you've
0
never had you
out of
said
5
you've never had
stars.
allergies before.
Never.
I
I've
have
never
really
felt this before.
I have seasonal allergies, and I'm actually allergic to grass pretty bad, and and so we bought guinea pigs that eat grass. And so I started to have to like really crank up my allergy regimen, because there was a period of time when we got the guinea pigs for like almost a month. Every day I was just like fluid was dripping from my face constantly.
Oh, oh, for
Um,
a month?
well, it
That
was
experience was terrible.
that part was probably like 2 weeks, but it took a full month to really get it under control. We tried different types of hay, and then I started a different kind of allergy medication regimen to get it under
Mm,
control.
mm.
All this is what you do for your children,
Fair, but
because
I mean, couldn't they you could do another pet
no,
too, I mean.
Zoe is like 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 her soul is attached to these
Oh,
guinea pigs. Like,
okay,
she's in
Zoe.
love with
I
them.
apologize to you. You
Yeah.
get the pet you want.
Mm.
You're a good dad. You're a good dad to go through that, and it was pretty awful.
But so yeah,
I now
I
know.
understand the experience is what I'm saying, because
Mm,
I go
mm.
through seasonal allergies a lot, and I've had pretty bad experiences with it before, um, but I've never gone through anaphylaxis though, or
It
anything
was
close to it.
crazy. Like it was a weird thing to see, and it was good that we happened to have somebody who had like had Ventolin and
What is
knew
Ventolin?
everything. It's the stuff. It's like a puffer.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
I might have the name wrong. Sorry,
But it's an
people.
asthma inhaler kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a bronchodilator. I don't know if that's the word. It'll
Bronchodilator, that is the
yeah
word. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so it'll relieve those symptoms because otherwise we would have had to call an ambulance. But it took
Yeah.
care of it for her. So yeah, it was the weirdest thing. It
That
was
is
just
really weird.
yeah. Yeah.
Somebody
And I was like, "Oh no, I'm getting sick." But then I was like, "I don't feel sick." This is so weird.
have you ever gone to an allergist and taken, you probably haven't had any reason to, because you
No.
said you don't really
No.
experience allergies.
Well, maybe I'll talk to my doctor and see if I can. I don't know if that's a thing because then I can get tested and see what the heck it was.
Oh yeah, do it and then tell me all about it, because
Yeah.
I find allergy tests to be I've never had one myself, but the whole process is pretty fascinating.
And so how did you know it was grass? It's just
It was
exposure and you're
pretty
like, "Yep."
obvious that
Yeah.
whenever I was asked to mow the grass, I would almost die.
All right, well,
Yeah.
that'll do
And
it.
that's when it
That'll
happened.
do
But
it.
also, seasonally I was allergic to pollen, but it's just little things like if I roll around in the grass, I would break out in hives, and then if whenever I
Right, right.
cut the grass, I would have really bad reactions, and
Mm.
I still had to cut the grass. I just took Benadryl and then cut the grass and then slept the rest of the day.
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
Somebody had to mow the lawn.
and I guess it had to be the guy who was allergic to grass.
Well, and to be in defense of my parents, who everybody's thinking right now are terrible, my mom was a single mom and she worked like 60 hours a week, and so, somebody had to do it, and we didn't have enough money to get somebody else to do it.
Fair, fair.
So it worked. I was able to cut the grass under. I was able to operate heavy machinery using this medication that makes you drowsy. Um,
Is it heavy machinery? Medium machinery.
medium. You're right. It's not
Well,
quite heavy.
still a lot of spinning blades.
Yeah.
That's Bobby Frankenberger getting it done
Yeah.
since 1997.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. All right. Should we do some science?
Yeah, let's
Or
talk
well,
about
talk about some
science.
science.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that story until we were midway through our intro, and I was like, "Oh, I do have something."
The caterpillar test, Tweep? Is that what you call the allergy test? I know that they take like a bunch of needles with different allergens on them and like stab you with them, right?
Oh,
I may
okay.
be
Drew a
being dramatic.
caterpillar on your arm, then stabbed a bunch of things into me with all the allergens. And what are you allergic to, Tweep, if you don't mind? Curious.
They drew a caterpillar on your. What's the? Why?
Well, it'd be like segments, right? So it'd be like, oh, here's a
Uh,
little, yeah,
was that
dust and cats and penicillin.
dust, cats, and penicillin? Aren't we all? Um,
Right? Yeah, penicillin. My husband allergic. It's a pain. It's a pain to be allergic to penicillin.
So you know what I found out not too long ago is that most people who think they're allergic to penicillin actually aren't.
Interesting.
Like, and I'm talking like 90% of people.
Wow, really? Is it because
Yeah.
it fades, or
Well,
because
it's
your
two
parents
reasons.
are
Two reasons.
reactive?
First of all, most people are diagnosed quote unquote as with a penicillin allergy when they're very very young, and so yeah,
Hmm.
you often outgrow allergies that you had when you were young, but also it's because a lot of times people just have when they're infants or toddlers have reactions to things
Mm.
and and the people who decide that it's an allergy are usually the nurses and this isn't me saying that nurses don't know what they're doing, but sometimes it's just like through the process of whatever it is that they're doing, it's just like, oh well, they had this adverse reaction to this thing, and we're just gonna say like they're just allergic to penicillin. You write it in the chart, and then nobody thinks twice about it, and you never get exposed to
Yeah, yeah.
penicillin again in your life because it's always in there. And then the doctor always asks you, are you allergic to any medications? And it's like, well, I guess penicillin. And so there's so many other easy things to write for in
Hmm.
place of
Hmm.
penicillin. So there's
Interesting.
no reason to try to expose you to it again. But it's lots of people are not actually allergic to penicillin.
That's very interesting. I have wondered with my husband, but I think he did have a fairly severe reaction. So, um, it was, he just never tried it again. But he was young. He was a kid. So who knows? Who knows?
Mm.
And I
But
thought my son was actually. I thought he was allergic to penicillin, but then I started to, because there was something like that, and because of Scott having it too. But I
yeah,
thought, you know what? We never really found this out. So let's try it and see. And had I had my one and only allergic reaction before that, I may not have done so because I didn't understand how horrible it is.
but yeah,
But
but
here we are.
also penicillin. There's so many, like I said, there's so many other options for.
There is, but for kids, it's a little tough. They have to like make a different. It was hard to get it
Oh,
in
okay, I
him,
see.
just because they make suspensions that are like really terrible tasting. So
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of suspensions and kids taking medicine, and how a lot of that is because kids don't do pills. My kids are like pill taking champs. Stephanie loves it because she says it's because she's a pharmacist, right? But like Kaylee will take any kind of pill. Zoe, like, I can't even do this. Zoe just takes pills and just swallows them dry. Um,
Wow.
yeah, they're just like pill taking champs, and nobody. Stephanie always jokes like she has adult patients who have to get the liquid medication because they can't do pills, and
It's tough.
yeah,
I'm pretty good at it too, but I did have a pill once that I just could not. I don't know what it was, super
was
bitter or something,
was it like real
but I
big
was
or
like,
something?
I just cannot, and I threw up like several
Oh
times trying
no!
to take it. It
Oh
was so
no!
bad.
That's terrible.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like a hospitalization situation where you're like, I really should take this,
Yeah,
but I
it's
couldn't
like
do
I
it.
have
I
to
couldn't do it.
take this pill.
I tried like 3, 4 times. I tried
Oh,
coating in chocolate.
that's
I tried
terrible.
like 100 things, and I just was like, I don't know. And like
That's
I can usually take them dry too, but this
yeah.
particular one was not having it.
Well, well,
Anywho,
yeah.
let's get to your news item.
Let's get to it. More in the last episode, I talked about archaeology, and
Mm,
I'm gonna do paleontology. It's another thing that we don't talk often enough about, and I think a lot of that is because I don't I don't know. I like dinosaurs,
mhm.
but I don't know a lot about dinosaurs.
You know, the interesting thing about dinosaurs you wouldn't expect is that it changes all the time.
Yeah, like there was a brontosaurus, then there wasn't, then there was, like
Yeah, yep. And they have scales, and now they have feathers, and now they were brown, and now
yeah,
they're like million colors. Like you just it's not that anyone's changing their mind. The research is being updated. It's hard to keep up.
yeah, yeah, it
And
is.
so all of your assumptions that you have from learning about dinosaurs in the 90s are probably wrong.
Yeah, and based on Jurassic Park,
That's true.
which whatever, it's okay. But for that reason, I saw something on this. There's a new paper published in the journal Paleontology on November
Mhm.
4th. And it's not really about dinosaurs, but paleontology, dinosaur adjacent. And this paper that was published on November 4th describes a leg bone that was found in the Tatacoa Desert in Colombia, South America. And this leg bone is believed to belong to a terror bird. You've heard of terror
Ugh.
birds before?
Nope.
You haven't? Wow.
I have not.
Terror birds are very big birds, or they were very big birds.
Okay.
They range in size from like 3 to 9 feet tall. That's 3 meters for you.
I'm sorry, tall?
Yes, 3 meters
Like when
tall.
they're standing on the ground.
Yes, correct. That's how they could be as tall as 3 meters tall.
That's insane.
And this leg bone that was found, which was believed to belong to a terror bird, is the northernmost evidence of this bird in South America. So it
Oh,
extends their
okay.
range.
Mhm.
And remember, last week we talked about archaeology, and little things like that can actually change a lot about what we know. And it can have cascading effects on how things are. So, little thing about it being its range being much further north in South America than we thought is probably a much bigger thing than it sounds. But also, and this is the really interesting part, or the cool part, is that it may be the largest known terror bird fossil to date. Not largest
Cool.
in terms of how much of it that was found, because it was just a leg bone, but it belonged to probably the largest terror bird ever found, and it increases the size. I told you 3 to 9 feet tall. That's what we had previously known. It increases it potentially up to 20% larger than that, which means this bird could be almost 11 feet tall. This
That
particular bird.
oh my gosh. Okay, we are recording this live and Logan has a question.
Yes.
How do they compare in size to Big Bird?
How do they compare
Uh
it? Well, I
and
would say
I've just looked up. Big Bird is 8 foot 2 inches.
so right there in the terror bird range. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a really, I'm glad you said that, Logan, because that's exactly, if you're trying to imagine how big this bird was, it's Big Bird sized. And this new one is like Big Bird's like really tall cut brother, right? Um like
Bigger
even
bird.
bigger bird, exactly. And these birds had huge beaks with hooks at the end of them. They walked around on two legs. They had really stubby like feathers. They were not flying birds. They
Yeah,
walked
that makes
around.
sense.
Um, and they lived on the ground, and they had limbs that were adapted for running, and they would hunt. They ate meat.
Okay, so like ostrich kind of
Sort of, but
vibes.
like beefier ostriches. They had
Beefy
thick
ostrich.
necks and bigger heads,
Okay.
and they hunted and were meat eating birds. They're basically a dinosaur.
Mm.
I mean, they were not dinosaurs, but they were, they were ancestors of the dinosaurs.
Wait,
Um,
other way around. Their
no,
dinosaurs
they
were their
were.
ancestors.
What's the opposite of ancestor? The
Descendants.
descendant. Yes. Just like the Disney movie. Though they were not descendants of dinosaurs, but these were descendants of
Mhm.
dinosaurs.
Mhm.
These 11-foot tall terror birds. This leg bone was actually found 20 years ago, and what they did was they 3D imaged it in this past year and got a sense for what the source animal looked like, and that's how they were able to like figure out, oh, this animal was probably 20% bigger than what we
Wow.
thought terror birds
Wow.
were in the past. And Yeah, direct evolution from dinosaurs. I think dinosaurs are said to have died out somewhere around 250 million years ago, and this was found. This fossil was like 12 million years old, so it's pretty
Okay.
pretty far down the
Distant.
ancestry
Yeah.
line. But there you go. Yeah, there were on the
Mm.
leg. There were teeth marks,
Oh, wow.
indicating that it was probably attacked and at least attacked by, maybe killed by, but at least attacked by something called a Purosaurus, which makes it sound like a dinosaur, but it's
Yeah, I
not.
was gonna say. Yeah.
This Purosaurus was a 30-foot long crocodilian reptile.
Okay. All right. Now we're really just giant animals
Giant
everywhere.
animals everywhere.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, no wonder there was this 11-foot tall bird
Yeah.
if you had 30-foot long crocodiles. Like, they've got to eat something, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be
Wow.
something for this 30-foot long crocodile to eat.
Yike.
Apparently, the Tatacoa Desert, where this was found, wasn't a desert back then. They think it was a very green area full of meandering rivers and all this kind of stuff. It's probably surrounded by like lots of varied
Mm,
wildlife
mm.
and everything. So a very interesting place to be, I'm sure. Probably kind of scary, but if you're going to be there, you'd have to be big like the terror bird, I'm guessing, to well, maybe that's not true. You could be small.
Mm.
Small creatures have their own niche to fill, right?
Well, it's interesting. I read a study about, I think we may have talked about it on the show, Tyrannosaurus Rex, how they thought, there's all these big dinosaurs, but there's not enough. I think there's sort of a concept in biology that you have a certain number of big animal slots that can be filled within an ecosystem, and you can't
Yeah.
really go above that. And what they found, they're like, there's not enough big animals. Where's the where's the missing chunk of animals? And the theory of this paper, or the hypothesis rather of this paper, was that it was juvenile T-Rexes were holding that spot of like another big animal. And so that kind of has to be taken into account when you fill the slot. So I
Right.
wonder, bigger and bigger and bigger, the bigger animals are, the more big animals kind of evolve alongside them. I wonder if that's actually the case.
That's a good point, because there's this concept you made me remember. I've read before. There's this concept of the larger, like, there's this concept of biomass, right?
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
much in an ecosystem, how much if you were to take a particular species and like smash them all together to make one giant blob of this
Living mass.
living mass of an organism, that all the that all the different, like, you might have a bunch of small animals, but there'd be a lot more, and the biomass might be, total biomass might be similar to the relatively fewer large animals, right? Um, and so it fills up these niches. But yeah, very interesting. Terror birds are really cool. If you don't know what they look like, you should definitely Google them. They're really big and huge. I've seen them in a museum before, recreations of them, of course. But they but yeah, bigger than we even thought, maybe.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. I need to grab a water refill,
Sure.
but I'm curious, Tweep, where you're moving. If you want to share, you don't have to share that with people on the internet.
Yeah, please just give me
But
your street
you
address
talked about,
also.
yeah, if you could also send a photo of your ID, that'd be great. I'll be right back.
mm. Chuck, speaking of Big Bird, Chuck does puppetry. You should make a terror bird puppet, Chuck. I have a question about that, Chuck. I know you guys do puppetry. Have you ever done and there's probably a term for this and I just don't know what it is. Isn't there a word for the puppets where you are the puppet, like you're in the suit, like a suit? And have you ever done one of those before? And then third follow-up question. Uh why why is it still a puppet even though you're just wearing a suit? There's not a. I'm just curious. Why does that qualify as a puppet? Most likely around the Kingston, Ontario area. Oh. Tweep says most likely around the Kingston, Ontario area. Although that's still on the opposite end of the continent from you. So
Yes, Kingston. I do get a little mixed up with. There's a part of Ontario that's just kind of one big town that changes the name of every like once in a while.
I'm
It's
gonna
like
be
Toronto, and then like you just meld into a whole bunch of other places, and I think Kingston is one of those. Yeah, kind of, sort of. Okay, I gotcha.
We're planning to currently we're planning to make a trip to Ontario actually in the summertime, and to visit some of that friend we keep mentioning, Palmer. We're gonna visit him and his family, and then also some other people we know near to
Cool.
Toronto. And the funny thing that is that we're gonna be there. I think we're planning to be there during Canada Day, and we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna co-celebrate both Canada Day and Independence Day.
Oh boy. Well, really, all you have to do is just throw some blue in
Yeah.
for the
Oh,
next
right.
celebration,
Because
right?
red
You
and
got red
white
and white,
is
and then
what
the
you
next
got, right?
is yeah. So you're good to go.
We'll just add some blue paint to all the decorations. I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can modify. But would this be like? Would we be violating some Canadian laws by modifying a maple leaf to be some sort of a U.S. symbol of national pride?
Well, there's maple trees in the States, so I feel like that's fine. But I think there's rules about flags, though. I wouldn't mess with that.
Oh, rules about flags for sure. I wouldn't mess with a flag. I respect vexillology.
Oh, coming in with the technical term.
I'm a lover of the of the discipline. Yeah.
Yeah. Tweep used to live in Edmonton. Oh, of course, because you said earlier you used to work for BioWare. I'm
Is
joking about why
BioWare
would
in
you ever leave?
Edmonton?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how I got my name in the Dragon Age games.
Is your name in the Dragon Age games?
Did I never tell you this? I'm in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition.
And you're
Because my friend worked on the game, and I was like,
I didn't know that.
"You're gonna put me in your game?"
Great.
And he took me seriously.
So is it
Yeah.
just a character named Mora, or is it like Mora Armstrong?
Well, here's the funny thing. He thought this was hilarious. The first in Dragon Age 2, it was an item called Sir Mora's Gauntlets, and the subtext was they make your arms strong.
That's great.
So funny. And then the next one, I was like, we didn't talk about this, so I don't know. Like, actually, I've never asked him, but so I don't know if they just used my name or if he actually was like, yeah. Anyway, I was like, there was a widow named Mora, and you had to go find her husband who had died and get her the wedding ring and bring it back to her.
Was the husband's name Scott?
I don't think so.
That would have been perfect.
I can't remember. Also, but if it was, that would be also kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
like why'd you kill Scott?
Yeah, that would be weird.
Also, I'm gonna look it up.
That doesn't feel like a very Dragon Agey name, whereas yours kind of fits, you know.
Yeah. Let me see. I don't know I forget if your husband was even named. Yeah. And she kind of looks like me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Maybe it's just they made her look Irish, and well. But yeah, no, it was
Irish.
Generic Irish look. Yeah, that's but the gauntlet was definitely mine. I was very excited when I found it.
Yeah. I asked Chuck what makes a body puppet. Why is it a puppet? That's what he says. It's a philosophical question.
Hmm.
But there are
What is
lots
a
of
puppet? A
definitions
puppet?
for puppets. It says, my dear friend Avetta defines a puppet
Areta?
as Areta. Sorry, my eyes are failing me. Defines a puppet as anything you can pick up and bring to life.
Like Frankenstein?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pick
Yeah.
up and bring to life? No, I get what you're
Or
saying. I get what you're saying, Amy.
yeah. Or
That's cool.
a water bear. You could pick it up and bring it to life. Or a brine shrimp.
That's right. Sea
Um,
monkeys.
yeah. Oh man.
Okay, cool. Also, we don't have that many doctors. That was the other part of my joke. I will add in there, tweet. We're also having the doctor problem.
Wait, there's a doctor problem? Did I miss something?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not a lot of
Oh, in Edmonton.
in much of Canada. There's a doctor shortage.
Really?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Maybe I'll
I
go back
won't
to
get
school.
into it.
Maybe I'll go
I
back to
won't
school.
get into it. It's a complex political problem.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That's not all that complex in my opinion, but anyway. 5 main classifications of puppets: hand and rod, body, and marionettes.
Mm.
Okay, I can kind of picture, right? Got the one that the hand goes in, the rod is like it's holding it or like on a stick.
Yeah. Then hand
Both.
and rod.
So the Muppets.
Yeah.
Body is like Big Bird, right?
Right. Yeah.
Snuffleupagus, yeah. And the marionettes like Team America.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, famous story about a puppeteer. Sorry. Okay. I just want to hang out with you guys. This is fun. I'm in a mood. I had a great weekend, and I'll tell you more about it a little bit in this next segment.
I like playing that game where you take a story or a movie and describe it in a completely like sideways way, which that's what that Frankenstein
yeah.
a famous story about a puppeteer. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh, a sixth classification. Shadow puppets.
Oh yeah.
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 Very cool. Well, thanks for the education, Amy. Appreciate it. Okay. Ready?
Born ready.
Bobby, have you ever gone to hot springs?
No, I haven't.
Never.
I've never been to any hot springs at all. I've never been to, like, those are always in those like really interesting geological places, right? Which isn't to say I've never been to places with geological interest, but like what?
It takes a certain set of conditions.
Yeah. But I've never been to a hot spring, and I don't know much about hot springs.
How about a geyser? Have you ever seen a geyser or geyser?
A geyser? I love the way that you pronounce so many things in so many fun ways. But
yeah, I as it came out, I was like, that sounds wrong. A geyser, yes.
Yeah, but no, I've never been to one of a geyser either. No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Have you been to both or either?
I have been to both, and in fact, this weekend, as I mentioned, I went away with some friends. We were in the mountains. We went to the hot springs, and it was not the first time I've been, but it had been a while because you have to travel to get to them.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was hot. But it started to snow a little bit, so it was kind of perfect.
Oh, it was snowing while you were in the hot spring? It's like a storybook or a movie.
Right? Yeah. No, it was perfect. So like my shoulders are cold, but my body's very warm, and just the contrast was nice, and of course the mountains are beautiful. But actually on the way home, as we were driving back, I said, we were all in a van together. I was like, what should I do for my podcast this week? And my friend was like, hot springs. So I thought, I've never really thought very much about why hot springs are hot or where they come from.
Right.
And so I thought that's a perfect one to do. So I dug in a little bit, and I started with what exactly a spring is, because I didn't know that either.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're right. You hear about spring water
Ah,
and
uh-huh.
springs, but I guess if someone were to ask me, I don't really know what a spring is. You're right.
Well, you're about to find out.
That's amazing.
So springs are formed when meteoric water, and by meteoric I mean precipitation, water that falls from the sky.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you for
wanted to tell
clarifying.
you that because that's the coolest name for water I've ever heard, and I
Yeah.
had never heard it. But meteoric water, apparently precipitation, will seep beneath the surface of the earth. So you've got a bunch of soil
Okay.
that's covering the earth, and then or you might just have rocks, but whatever it is, it goes down into the cracks and fissures and spaces in between the rocks that are covering the surface.
Okay.
So it collects within these permeable rock systems until it'll keep going down until it hits an impermeable layer.
Okay. Yeah.
And so this will usually be something like clay, or maybe some hard metamorphic rock like granite or something.
Sure.
Something that the water can't get through because there's no cracks, there's no spaces between. The stone doesn't really absorb the water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so through this process, it gets filtered because it's going through all of these different layers,
Yeah. Okay.
and it it will then transfer different impurities, whatever, not necessarily bacteria. There might still be some bacteria collecting, but things like extra dissolved minerals and stuff like that. It'll react with what's around it. It
Mm-hmm.
might pick up some minerals on the way as well. So it's usually quite pure. It's usually mostly water by the time it comes out. And the way that it will come out, there's a couple of different ways. A couple of the main ones are, one is called a gravity spring. So basically, you can imagine a hill full of all these permeable rocks, and then at one point there's that impermeable layer, that clay,
Mm-hmm.
and out the side of the hill will come the spring, because it's eroded to the point where that impermeable layer is visible from one side. You see this in
Oh
the
yeah.
Grand
Okay.
Canyon very clearly, because you can see all those layers of rock
Yeah.
that
Okay.
have built up over time. And so there will be springs that come out from the side of the Grand Canyon that feed the Colorado River. And so it'll be kind of high, like halfway up. You'll see this in the mountains too. You'll just see like a spout of water coming out of the rock,
Yeah.
just randomly on the side of the road. And so sometimes it's like a waterfall from further up or whatever, but sometimes it's a spring. So the other common way this can happen is called a fault spring. So let's say you have a water system, you've got a bunch of groundwater underneath layers of rock and soil, and they're kind of just hanging out there. They don't necessarily have anywhere to go. They're not being gravity fed out.
Yeah.
Gravity's not pulling them up. But it's along a fault line. If the tectonic plates shift, and now you have an interruption of that system. Maybe there's a new impermeable layer, maybe a big fat slab of granite now is shoved up against this aquifer, this system of water underground.
Mm-hmm.
Now the water needs to find somewhere else to go, and so it'll usually bubble up like from the ground
Oh. Okay.
and go
Yeah.
upward. Yeah. Um, and so springs are they're good drinking water. So they've been very important to a lot of different cultures. They're not
Because they're so
super duper
pure,
common.
like because they've been
Hmm,
filtered
hmm.
naturally by the earth.
Yeah, exactly. And you will get whole communities springing, pun intended, up around them
Mm-hmm.
because fresh water, good
Right.
fresh water.
Right.
That's You need that for a community. There's been temples that are built around it because sort of will have spiritual significance as well. I just need to take a quick sip.
Is that spring water that you're drinking?
Yes, that's what it said on the bottle, so I definitely believe it. Um, I think it's key to note that anything that says spring water on it, I would take with a heaping teaspoon of salt, because there's not that many springs in the world to fill all those bottles.
Oh,
So,
sure. Yeah.
eh, I don't know what allows them to say that, but yeah, don't I would say that's what would that be? Clear washing?
Clear washing.
Clear
Yeah.
water washing?
Water
That
washing.
doesn't
They're water
or
washing.
just
Yeah.
washing, I guess.
Yeah.
Um So now sometimes what will happen is the water that's part of these springs, while it's underground, will come into contact with heat inside of the earth.
Okay.
One of the things I found out, this is in British Columbia, province in Canada. So this is specific to that region. So I'm not sure if this is the same everywhere, but the temperature of the earth in BC increases by 30 degrees Celsius for each kilometer of depth.
Oh, wow.
So if you go down 3 kilometers, you're at 90 degrees Celsius. You're almost at the boiling point of water.
But that's very
That
deep.
it's very deep. It doesn't sound deep because you think, oh, 3 kilometers, I could walk that. But when you're digging in the earth, it's enormous amounts of pressure
Yeah.
and it's very, very deep. Um, so the heat, this is geothermal heat, the kind of heat that is primordial, left over from the formation of the earth
Is that
itself.
so? It's not like a pocket of magma just under the surface?
Well, it often will be actually.
Oh,
In some
okay.
cases,
Okay.
there will be a magma bubble because magma doesn't come up 3 kilometers below the surface of the earth.
Right. That'd
It's
be
not
really
that close
close
to
to
the
the surface.
surface
Yeah.
usually. Like it does on occasion, but if that's there's
Yeah.
often
Sometimes it
volcanic
even comes
activity in
up,
space
up
like that.
past the surface.
All the way. Sometimes it comes all the way. So that's not a
But it's not
as a
common, is
matter
what
of
you're saying.
course.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But even if you don't have that magma bubble, you do have an increase in heat.
Yeah. I didn't realize it got so much warmer just by being because it used to be warm a long time ago.
Well, there's that. That's part of it. Part of the heat of the Earth, the reason the Earth is warm at its center, is because of the decay of radioactive elements. I found
Right.
out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We should. Oh yeah. That's yeah, that's true. It's that's
Hmm.
part of why the Earth. It used to be believed. That's a whole thing. Anyway, yes, radioactivity, radioactive decay is part of what
Yeah.
heats the
Yeah.
Earth. You're right.
Right. So the water from these springs, the further they go into the Earth, the more they'll warm up. And you have to get just the right system where you're going down into the ground deep enough that the water contacts this heat and that it's able to come back because there's also a lot of groundwater that's just there. It's just these aquifers, these
Yeah.
pockets of water that cycle with the water, on the surface, but in different ways. They're not necessarily popping out via a spring. They might come out through other means. Um so this is let me start again.
Sure.
So once that water gets down to that very deep, hot place, it warms up and then it can come back out in a couple of different ways. Gravity, like I just described, a regular spring.
Yeah.
It could be gravity fed and just exit at a permeable layer of water. So this is why you might find them in mountains.
Mm-hmm.
You might find some gravity fed ones that because the mountains have all kind of been pushed upward, they still have that heat retention and then gravity's able to be accessed essentially as a form of energy to bring these springs out.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that will happen is thermal convection. So what will go down, all this cold water goes down, it heats up, and then there's maybe some kind of reservoir, maybe a small aquifer where the water is circulating. That hot water goes up to the top, and then more cold water comes from the original source, the meteoric water, and heads down towards the bottom, and it kind of goes through this cycle.
Probably the fact that the hot water is rising causes it
Mhm,
to be replaced by the cold water,
mhm.
and that cycle probably like it feeds into itself. Like the warm
Yeah,
water is going
yeah.
up and being and needing to be replaced by something, so the cold water replaces it. Yeah.
So you can imagine if you have a reservoir, let's say it's 1,000 liters. That
Mm-hmm.
seems pretty small for what we're talking, but 1,000 liters of water, and now you keep adding more water to it. Eventually, it has to go out somewhere. So
Sure.
if that hot water that goes upward finds that exit point as more water gets added, then it will come out as a hot spring. And a couple of things, it can collect more water on the way, like maybe cooler water,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's not super duper hot, like it's not that boiling hot water that
Right.
goes all the way down to the bottom. But so you'll get springs of various temperatures.
Let me ask you a question. When we're talking about this water cycling underground, and this is, I don't actually know the answer to this question, so this isn't like a leading question.
Mm,
Um, I'm just genuinely curious. Are we talking, like, we're not talking about empty pockets of space that water fills, right? Like, are we talking about like water that is permeated the
mm,
earth, moving around still, like almost like if
mhm,
like
mhm.
it's in a sponge moving through the spongy, I know it's not as
Yeah, yeah.
permeable as a sponge, but I'm using that as an analogy, like it's not like an empty space, is it?
I think it's a little more dynamic than that.
So like sometimes there is empty spaces or are empty spaces, sometimes there aren't, and it's being
Well, I
pushed
think
through
that
layers and
yeah, because water is going to affect whatever it goes through.
that's a
So
good
you're
point. I hadn't considered that.
yeah, so the water is going to with spring as I described at the start, it seeps through whatever soil's there. And sometimes there's not much soil, right? Sometimes there's none. It's just rocky soil,
Yeah.
rocky ground rather. And then if the rock is not one big solid piece, you might have just cracks and fissures. You might have shale, right? Just piles of crumbled rock. You could have there's lots of different ways it can look, but I wouldn't it's not like an underground lake necessarily or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a big,
It's not
when I
like
say
a yeah,
reservoir, it's
it's
not
not
like a
like a
tank.
empty, like you could swim around in this water.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly.
okay.
And I'm sure it spans many like maybe there are many places where there's like big caverns of full of water and
Sure,
there's
sure,
some
sure.
that's where it's just microscopic cracks that it kind of fits into. But um whatever it is, there is space where water can seep in
Mhm.
and it takes up that space.
Yeah.
Now, this when you get these systems that have thermal convection going, you might have as the water's sinking down, maybe it exits the system a little earlier, so you have some cooler springs in one region, and then a few kilometers away, it's exiting at a different point where the
Yeah.
water is hotter, so you have hotter springs over here. You can get these they come in many different flavors, shall we say.
Mhm.
Some are boiling hot, like literally 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Some are just warm-ish. They've been warmed to 25 or whatever, they're kind of room temperature. Um, and they also come with many mineral deposits.
Right.
Whatever
Okay.
stone they're moving past, because the water is hot, it is going to dissolve more minerals from that stone than a cool spring would.
Yeah.
So one of the common ones that you'll find is hydrogen sulfide. So that's it's a gas, but it can when it's dissolved into water, it turns into sulfuric acid. So you'll get
Yeah,
a
I was
low
about to say that
pH and
sounds
kind of an
like
eggy smell.
acid. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one that I went to. I could smell the sulfur as we were coming close.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
It wasn't too bad. Like it was minor. It was
It
minor.
didn't just smell like farts the whole time?
Like a little bit like farts.
Okay.
But apparently in the winter, the springtime is when because all the melt, that's when springs will run the most. Like they'll have the most water. Um, so in the winter in this particular place they were adding in municipal water to
Yeah.
keep the volume going.
Oh, okay.
So it maybe didn't smell as bad as it might in the spring or summer. There's carbonated hot springs.
I've heard
So
of
this
that
will have
before. Like, yeah,
yeah,
with like
yeah, and it was
sodium bicarbonate.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll get lots of dissolved carbon dioxide, and if you hold your hand underwater, little bubbles will collect on it. So it's like
Yeah.
having a Perrier bath,
That's the one that I want.
right?
Not the fart springs.
No fart springs.
I mean,
It really is not. It's not that dramatic.
I'll
It's
do
not
the
that bad of
fart
a smell.
springs. If that's what I've got available to me, I'll do it.
Truly, I feel like I'm misrepresenting it, but
Yeah.
whatever. Sometimes you'll get lots of
You're not it's me that's misrepresenting it more. Don't thank you for
fair,
taking the
fair.
bullet for me, but
So the another thing that you'll find dissolved into these springs is iron. So it'll
okay.
have lots of iron-rich water, which will look clear, but as soon as it hits another bit of rock or metal, it'll create reddish brown deposits on it.
Oh.
There's salt, saline,
Mhm.
saline hot springs with a high concentration of sodium chloride. Apparently, sometimes too, you can get radioactive elements mixed in as well. Radon, in particular,
Yeah.
is sometimes there, and because this is essentially nuclear powered, because you've got the heat of the earth that is coming from nuclear energy. I found a couple of concerns here and there as I was researching this, like, oh, is this radioactive? Is it gonna hurt me? But it's not. It's not gonna register
Yeah.
as anything that can harm you
That's good.
because it's yeah, the heat comes from nuclear systems maybe, but it doesn't create radioactivity,
Right,
at least
okay.
not in a way that would actually harm you.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that can happen is hot springs will come out where there's already soil, and it will mix with the earth and create what's called a mud pot.
Say what? A mud pot. Okay.
A mud pot. It's basically just a little, pool of mud
Oh,
where
okay.
the springs are coming out and there's all this, I don't know, clay or soil, and it mixes in with it, so you see all these
And
bubbling
people go
bits.
into it and they think it's good for their skin.
I did not find any mud pots that are available for, like, tourist use.
Yeah.
I was curious about that, though, and I wonder if that exists. But the thing about it is it's kind of a closed system, like, a hot spring is gonna keep refreshing, right? It's
Yeah.
gonna keep going. But a mud pot, like, you're not where you can't get new mud cycling through necessarily unless you add it in, right?
That's true.
So I don't know if anybody would wanna sit in the mud that somebody else that you sat in. I don't know. I didn't find any commercially available mud pot sitting.
Mm,
That's what I'll say.
okay.
I'm sure it exists though.
And it's if
But
they
that
did,
brings me
it would be
go ahead,
full of
sorry.
full of disease, I'm sure.
That's the thing, like, I don't know, I don't know. But that brings me to the health claims
Oh, great. Yeah.
because, uh, hot springs, the use of them, there are many, many claims that it heals all of the things,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't look into this too deeply because I wanted to focus on what hot springs are and how they work. So, I don't know. Does a dip in hot springs provide a health benefit? Is it a greater health benefit than soaking in a warm pool, a generic warm pool would give you?
Like your
I don't
bath
know.
with
Like a bath?
some salts in it.
Yeah, yeah, a warm bath or like a day off, like because usually if you're going somewhere for hot springs, it's generally a tourist destination, so you're probably on vacation.
Yeah, and
Not sure.
relaxation has known benefits.
Yeah, that's the thing. But also there's a ton of minerals dissolved into these, and minerals are important for our health
Yeah,
generally.
okay.
You're not ingesting them, so you might not be getting them into your body as efficiently as
Maybe
you
you're not
could.
supposed to be ingesting them,
You
but
aren't supposed to, no. Um, and I did a quick search of peer-reviewed papers about, hot springs and health effects, but there wasn't really a ton. A lot of them were about studying contamination,
oh yeah.
like, and seeing about safety. Um, a couple were about the effects of medical tourism on the economics of a region. So again, grain of salt.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll feel great, but it's also associated with, um, at least in North America, there was a period of time where the idea was the city had bad air, and if you went to the country, it had good air.
Right, yeah.
So all of these therapeutic spaces popped up outside of cities where the air
Sure.
was quote unquote good, and so they would sometimes be associated with hot springs,
Right.
which yeah would be a space to rest and recuperate, and so that might be a legacy of that. Regardless, if you like hot springs and you feel great, then go do that.
I
Get
mean,
in there, do your thing.
obviously, you're endorsing hot springs in a way because you're telling us about how you went and had a good time.
I mean, it was great. It's
Yeah.
just yeah, it was very,
There are
very warm,
there are lots of things
surprisingly
like that.
warm.
If you go to get, we recently went on a cruise, right? If you go on a cruise and try to get a massage, there's going to be so many people telling you about all the
Yeah,
health benefits,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But come on, sometimes a massage is just a massage and it feels great.
exactly.
you
And
know?
maybe things that feel great are good for you
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Like not
maybe
everything,
maybe
but
that's
within
why
limits.
maybe just feeling great is good.
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know.
think that helps a lot of people's health.
Yeah.
But there's another version of hot springs that I want to talk about,
Oh.
which we've already said is geysers.
Yeah, I want to know about geysers.
Let's talk about those. Because as I was looking at hot springs, I was like, this is really cool. But how is it that sometimes hot springs create a system where they shoot hundreds of feet up into the air?
Yeah, like the Yellowstone Park here in North America, in the U.S.
Yeah.
has famous geysers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um, how does that happen? Because I don't know. I've never really.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm sure it's been explained to me before, but I just don't remember. But how does that work?
So a geyser is essentially a fountain of steam and hot water
Hmm.
that erupts from a vent in a geothermal region.
And when you say a
So
vent, do you literally
mm,
just mean like a vent, like a crack in the ground?
a hole in the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. So the basic idea is that there is a bunch of water that is heated enough and put into a pressurized system that it turns into steam and then it erupts,
Yeah.
becomes this geyser. So the way that a geyser is formed, they're quite unusual overall around the world. There's not many of them,
Okay.
when you compare to I don't know lakes and rivers. So what you need is an opening in the Earth's surface. You need a hole. This is called the mouth,
Okay.
and within that space, that needs to be connected to a single tunnel that's sealed off everywhere else except for its opening. So water will collect from precipitation or groundwater and it will enter into this system and then it can't really get out or it has difficulty getting out, and the easiest way to get out it would be the mouth of
Okay.
this. They call it plumbing because it's like these sort of like skinny tubes usually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now the other thing that's really important for a geyser is to have a mineral called, or rather rock called rhyolite
I've heard of it.
lining the geyser's plumbing system. You have.
Yes, I have.
Now, if you have rhyolite or another silica containing rock, that is really key because what you want is silica dissolving into this water.
Okay.
And because it's a hot spring, it's going down really deep, it's getting really warmed up. The water is hot and it'll connect with the rhyolite and it will dissolve more silica than if it were cold,
Okay.
because hot water can dissolve, it can hold more solutes.
Solutes. Yeah.
That's the word.
Molecules are spaced further apart because they're hot,
Mhm,
so it can
mhm.
more stuff can be dissolved into there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as it moves around in this system, in this plumbing system, these tubes underground, especially as it goes from that hot part down below upward through the geyser itself, it will deposit the silica along the plumbing system of the geyser.
Oh.
And that seals it off.
Oh.
So you end up with these tubes. Tubes is maybe the wrong word, but these tunnels or like pipes, I guess, if you're
Mhm.
using the
Mhm.
plumbing analogy, that are lined with deposits of opal and geyserite. And
Oh.
these are when the silica gets deposited, it creates these new rocks, opal and geyserite. And that seals off this specific system from the rest of the water system that's
Okay.
operating around it.
Okay.
So obviously it does have to have an entryway at some point below, So wherever it's connected down below, there's maybe it's dipping into a larger aquifer. Maybe it has a long, complicated system that once the water gets in there, it's hard for it to get out except through the mouth.
Yeah.
But more or less, it doesn't really get out. Now, once you have enough heat, you can start to see how this would start to erupt because these geysers usually happen in places with high volcanic and geothermal activity.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
similar to hot springs, but often there is some kind of magma bubble closer to the surface. So Yellowstone, as an example,
Yeah. There's a lot
in the
of
states.
volcanic activity under the surface. No, well, not
Yes.
not active volcanic activity, but yeah,
Mhm.
there's geomagma stuff going on. That's the technical term, geomagma stuff.
Geomagma. Yeah. So there's a magma bubble
Yeah.
beneath the surface that is closer to the surface there than it is in other spaces.
Yeah.
Now the water goes down closer to the magma bubble at the bottom. It's under incredible pressure because there's a whole ton of rock and other water above it also. And then it starts to heat up, and that means it starts to boil.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
water kind of becomes turbulent because the boiling, it's moving around. It's causing the water to move because the hot water goes up. And sometimes it'll hit 100 degrees, but it might not be able to turn into steam right away because it's under so much pressure.
Sure. Yeah.
So it becomes turbulent and starts moving around. That movement will push like a little bit of water out of the mouth of the geyser.
Mm.
When that happens, and I have seen a geyser, it was in Iceland, and you see it kind of does this little like bloop and goes up and then sort of splashes out and sinks back down, and then there's another little bloop. So you get a warning bloop.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
goes up higher, and then it's like and it goes up way, way, way high. That turbulence makes that movement, and that movement pulls water up in this system. And it creates, when it goes up into the air, it creates a little bit of a low pressure system right underneath the mouth.
Oh, okay.
And so you've got intensely high pressure down below, and that little rise creates a low pressure area at the very top.
Right.
So that high
Because of
pressure
how
water.
fast the water's moving, there
Mhm.
probably hasn't been enough time for it's almost like it's not really a vacuum, but it's a low pressure area underneath because
Yeah.
there hasn't been enough time for stuff to take the space that was left, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and but then it does, right? Because it's
Right.
high pressure underneath, that high pressure, it moves up into that low pressure area
Mm-hmm.
right at the mouth, and it's a small movement at first, but it keeps, it pushes a little bit more out, and then you lose a little more pressure there, and then it keeps doing that a couple of times, and maybe sometimes it's just one big bloop bloop, but when I saw it, it was a couple of it wavered a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually when you have enough of that high pressure water is pushing upward into that low pressure space, it will have this cascading effect where the upward movement becomes really, really fast, and then
Yeah.
high temperature water, when it's released, turns into steam and shoots high into the air. And now
Right.
you've got tons of low pressure, right? It just sort
Right.
of this cycle reinforces itself. So you've got this
If
really low
enough
pressure space.
Yeah, if enough water is moving up, the fact
Mhm.
that it leaves low pressure behind it will just keep pulling more water
Yeah.
behind it, right? Like it sort
Yeah.
of creates almost a pulling effect. It's not really what's happening, but you can imagine like a mass of water as it's moving up will pull other water up with it, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can really
Exactly.
visualize that the way you're describing it.
Yeah. So that's what makes it erupt. You talked about the famous geysers in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Old Faithful is the one that most people know, which erupts every 91 minutes.
Right. It's yeah, that's why they call it Old Faithful is because it's
Mhm.
you can set that famously you can set your watch to
Yes.
this geyser,
Yes.
right?
And I watched a little video on how they figure out the timing of it. Like, there's quite specific um, timing to it. If it erupts for longer than 3.5 minutes or whatever, then they say, okay, well, it's going to erupt again in an hour and 20 minutes. But if it erupts like for only a minute or so, they're like, okay, well, it's going to be in 60 minutes or whatever.
Sure,
So
sure.
it's not always like precise, but you can tell based on the previous eruption what will happen next.
Oh, interesting.
And they give or take about 10 minutes. So you can go on the website, the Yellowstone website, and we'll say when it will next erupt.
Yeah,
which is
that's
really
cool.
cool. Yeah. So that's how guys are working. And I thought that was, it's kind of a unique version of hot springs
Wow. Yeah,
that is out there, and one that brings a lot of people in to see it happen.
that's cool. That's very cool.
Now, the other cool thing about hot springs is they have some very unique biology. In fact,
Oh,
the
I
very
bet.
first,
Yeah.
yeah, the very first extremophile was that was studied and identified and like cataloged was found in the hot springs at Yellowstone,
Oh,
called T. aquaticus.
never heard of it.
Well, you're not an extremophile microbiologist, so I'm not surprised. I too had never heard of it, but it was collected and studied and groundbreaking that bacteria
Yeah.
could actually live in these spaces. And they kind of knew, like they could see some of the effects because bacteria are responsible for some of the vibrant colors you'll find in hot springs. There's like
Oh, yeah.
blue, green, yellow.
Oh, some very
Um,
beautiful colors. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. These extremophiles have been found in temperatures up to 97 degrees
Celsius?
Celsius, so
What?
3 degrees away from boiling. Yeah,
Wow.
crazy. And it's not just heat that they can live in. They can because hot springs are often highly acidic or alkaline. Extremophiles have been found there
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as well, and sometimes they'll do both. They can do hot and acidic, and they have like multiple uh, adaptations, which is really cool.
Yeah.
What's cool about this too is it's really key to research on life about life on other planets.
Right.
To imagine how they might survive in an extreme environment and the beginning of life on our planet.
Right, 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 right. Because it
Yeah,
was a quite extreme environment early on our planet.
yeah, yeah. But it's actually not just bacteria, which was really cool because you have this space that's always warm. So during the winter, you might sometimes get flowers blooming next to hot springs.
Wow, cool.
Yes, there's certain species of fish that can thrive in hot springs. They don't mind
No
hot
way.
temperatures. Yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes they've been introduced from other places that are
How do you cook
they're not native
fish
to the space.
that love the heat?
And in Banff hot springs, there's a species of snail that's unique to the space. Can't be found anywhere else.
Wow,
This one little snail lives just by the hot springs in Banff, which is really cool.
that's cool. Is that the hot springs that you went to?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah. Now there's a lot of hot springs in some places and not many in others. I found out in my research as I did this, British Columbia has 85 hot springs.
Oh
It's
my
kind of
gosh.
that's where many of
Really?
them in Canada are. Yeah. But that is pales in comparison to some other places. Where do you think has the most hot springs? I'm curious to know
The most
if you
hot
would know.
springs of all. Um,
Hmm.
I'm gonna guess for for not a lot of it's got to be some kind of geologically active area. I'm gonna guess someplace in India.
Oh, that's a good guess. There are some in India.
Yeah.
But the answer is Japan.
Oh,
Hmm.
well, the Ring of Fire.
Exactly.
The
Japan,
is a very volcanically active place. Yeah.
and not just volcanoes, earthquakes. So
Yes.
there's lots of movement of the ground. It actually is. I didn't realize this. Japan is at sort of a connection point of four tectonic plates.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, four tectonic plates. So all of that movement means that you have water being affected and moving around in different ways. Plus, you've got all that volcanic activity, so lots of heat.
Mhm.
There's I saw 2 estimates that are pretty dramatically different. One that said, Japan has 4,500 hot springs, and
What?
one that said it has 20,000.
Oh my god. I thought
Yeah.
4500 was a lot.
Yeah, it is. Wow, they're both a lot. Regardless, there's a lot of hot springs in Japan, and
On
it's actually like a
the lower end of the estimates are
yeah.
4500. Okay. Wow.
In Japanese, it's called onsen. I'm
Okay.
not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's actually a really important part of their culture. They use it in medicine historically, and there's hot springs that you can visit that have been visited by emperors and Japanese elite for thousands of years. So it's very cool. They have a long tradition there.
Wow.
Hmm.
I don't know why I'm acting like we can't
I don't
talk right
either.
now. um, you mentioned two places that are on my short list of places that I want to go on vacation. Um, one of them will be easier than the other one, but the first being Yellowstone National
Yeah.
Park. I would love to go there.
Yeah, me too.
Um, just there's so much cool sciencey type stuff
Yeah,
there,
it's
right?
amazing.
Um, and the other one is Japan. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
love to visit
I
Japan.
would love to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, I just had ramen today.
Yeah, man. The
So
food,
good.
I love sushi.
I mean, Japan is yeah, they've got a lot of things going on that I feel like they figured out.
So, if I ever go to Japan, not if, when I go to Japan,
Mhm.
there is this sushi place that there was a whole documentary made about, like the most.
Hero Dreams of
Yes,
Sushi? Yes.
I got to
I wanna
go
go
there.
there. Yeah,
I
I wanna
got
go there
to.
too.
Whatever it costs, whatever
3 Michelin
reservations have to be
stars.
made,
Yeah, 100%.
I got to go there cuz I love sushi and I love I'm very opposite of Stephanie, my wife, in this regard, but I love going to a place like to eat where you just like just bring me whatever food.
Yes,
Just
100%.
yeah. I think I've told this I may have related this story if not on the podcast. I think I told you before. For my 40th birthday, we went down to the Charleston area, which we like to go and spend a weekend in
Mm.
sometimes. But Stephanie planned the whole weekend for me for my 40th birthday, and one of the things she planned for me because she knows I love sushi and is they have a sushi restaurant down there. Or it really is just a Japanese restaurant, and they're known for their sushi, but there's all sorts of
Mhm,
Japanese
mhm.
food. And one of the things on the menu was what do they call it? Omakase or something like that. But it's a Japanese chef's table experience.
Oh,
And so you
cool.
just, and for anybody listening live doesn't know what a chef's table experience is basically you just say I want to order this and it's just like, it'll say how many courses it is, but the chef just whatever they feel like making you that night,
Mhm,
they'll
mhm,
just bring you food.
mhm.
And just I love doing that. Like if
So cool.
anytime I go to a restaurant and I see like a chef's table experience, I'm like, oh, I got to do that. Like, cause
Yes,
I
yes.
love eating new things. I love
Mhm.
experiencing new foods, and if you go to a place that does something like that, it's always there's always a creativity to the food, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
that's the
They're doing
whole.
the things they like to do.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, I like to imagine. I don't know if this is true or not, but I like to imagine that when somebody orders some sort of chef's table experience, they get excited, and they're like, ooh, okay, let's see what
Yeah.
I can make. What do we got? What do we got
Yeah.
in the kitchen right now, and what can I put together, and what would I like to make? And so I want to have those things, right? Like I want to have
Oh,
the thing that the
100%.
chef is excited to give me, and
Mhm.
because I just love all kinds of food. And I found that even foods that I think I don't like, when they're made well, uh, and given to me in a way, in a
Mhm.
context that like I
Mhm.
guess highlights some of the best features of those foods, I enjoy it. And I'll give you a really good example. I never, ever, ever, ever have liked olives. Ever. I've
Mm.
never liked olives.
Okay.
And there are lots of people who love olives and everything, and they're always like
Yeah.
trying to tell me, "Oh, you got to try olives. Have it this way or have it that way, or olives are great." And there's so many different types of olives, and I get it. Whatever. I've never had an olive and enjoyed it. All right. But we went on this Disney cruise back in almost a year ago now. And no, it wasn't the Disney cruise. It was the one that we went on after that. But it doesn't matter. It was on a cruise, and they had this cool dining experience that was like
Mm.
extra that you paid for. And me and Stephanie love just restaurant experiences. So we were like, oh, this
Mhm.
sounds really, really cool. It was like a really multi-sensory, multimedia
Nice.
experience where there's stuff you watched on all the walls. It was like projected on all the walls around you, and they had
Cool.
people in front of you performing, and it was just a
Oh, I
very
love
like
that.
sensory experience. And they would give you dishes that had to do with what was going on, and you were going on this journey through. It was all about Italy, which was a big selling point for Stephanie because she loves Italian food. But one of the dishes, they were telling us all about the history of all of the olive fields in Italy or wherever it was.
Mhm.
And so they
Mhm.
bring us out like is basically it's just olives. They're showcasing the olives, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
dish that's
Yeah.
just mostly like olives.
Okay.
And I had the olives the way that they told us to eat it, with bread in this certain way, and it was these particular olives, and it was really good, and I
Amazing.
loved it. And it just goes to show, like you can never. It's what you're always telling your kids, right? Like try the food again. Try
Mhm.
it. You
Mhm.
think you don't like it, try it again,
Mhm.
because you never know. And in this context, like, and I remember it made me think of. Have you ever listened to the Brains On podcast?
Yeah.
So it's a kids science podcast. My daughter loves listening to it. We'll listen to it on the way to school in time, and they had an episode about food and tastes and stuff like that. And I remember them saying this, and it made me think of it when I had these olives, that they specifically said on that episode that your taste are like the context of the food is so important for
Mm.
how you taste
Mm.
things.
Mhm.
And it's very, very true. So I don't know. I just, I love food, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
And
I would love I would love to go to Yellowstone. I would love to go to Japan. Um, not for the hot springs, but I'd probably go to
I'd
some
do
hot
the hot
springs.
springs in Japan
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's such a fascinating culture, and
So
they have
different from ours,
such
yeah.
a rich history. Like, it's just such an interesting place, and yeah, it would be amazing to go
Yeah, yeah.
someday.
It seems like they have such a interesting juxtaposition of modern and ancient, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
all in the same
And just
place.
like the like their country was like closed off to other places for centuries. They
Yeah.
didn't allow any outside influence, and that just so fascinating to me, how culture would have evolved. I have there's this one show on Netflix I like to watch called Midnight Diner. It's about a diner in Tokyo that's open between like 12 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Mhm.
And this guy just serves food, and it has like cast of characters. It all takes place in
That's
this little
great.
tiny restaurant. But it is so interesting, all these like stories of Japanese people, and I feel like I got a little more connected to the culture there now
Yeah.
than through other means. So yeah, it's a very cool place. Yeah, apparently tattoos are a thing in hot
Yeah,
springs. You
it's
have to
a
be
tweet
careful.
saying you might not be able to do the hot springs in Japan because you're so tatted now.
Yeah.
I have a
Oh,
sister-in-law who just got
Japan.
married. They went to Japan on their honeymoon, and there was a whole thing. They couldn't go to a particular hot spring bath because they
Mhm.
had tattoos, and there's it's because tattoos over there, according to them and from what I've heard, they're associated with organized crime. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
that's why.
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't realize. I thought it was like a skin thing.
No, it's because of their yeah
Oh.
the relationship with organized crime. But I think they were able to go to some other hot spring even though they had tattoos. So
I'm sure there's some that
there's
catered to
places you can
tourists.
go. Yeah, that cater to tourists, right?
Yeah.
Um, but there are definitely places and hot springs and baths that they were not able to go to because of the
Wow.
fact that they had tattoos. Yeah. So I guess I'm permanently marked now. I'm
That's right.
branded. All the Weezer gang.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Says Tweep says it's a lot more lax now, but certain areas, yeah, that are restricted.
You'll have to be careful. Well, I guess too that's good to note if you are in Japan and you see someone with lots of tattoos,
Be on your
then
best
you know
behavior.
that you gotta just be aware that
Yeah.
person may be involved in organized crime if
Yeah.
that's if that is truly the case. I
Yeah.
don't know. I wonder maybe it's has become a little bit more fluid now in
Yeah, it's
Japan
weird
as a
to
lot of
think about
things
because
are.
here in the US, we think about like the mafia as such a does the mafia still exist? Do you does the
Yeah.
it does?
Yeah.
Yeah? I mean
Mhm.
if the Sopranos has anything to say about it, then yes.
No, yeah, there's lots of yeah, there's lots of organized crime happening and the mafia is still a thing.
Wow.
But
So
I think
interesting.
in Japan the the one I've heard about is the yakuza, but I don't know if I'm sure there's more than
Yeah.
just that, but yeah.
Yeah, organized crime is just organized crime, right? Like it doesn't have to just be the mafia, right? It's just
Yeah,
organized crime.
there's lots of gangs out there, Bobby.
Yeah.
Better watch out. Now they're going to think you're one of them with your tattoo.
Yeah. I'm in the I'm in the the Weezers.
They never mention the word mafia in The Sopranos, says Dweeb. That's interesting.
Really? That's probably right. They call it the family, probably, or
I doubt
something.
anyone in the mafia is like, "Hey, we're in the mafia." It's my
Hey,
terrible
you want
Italian
to join
accent.
the mafia?
Oh, don't release this audio, Bobby. We're
Yeah,
gonna
you don't want to mess with us.
we're
We're in the
gonna get.
mafia.
Ugh. Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah. I watched The Godfather. Do they say the mafia and The Godfather? I don't know.
They weren't allowed to in Sopranos. Interesting. Yes. Interesting.
Hmm.
Do they say the mafia in The Godfather? I've never seen that.
You've never seen The Godfather? I'm not going to tell you that
No.
you should see The Godfather, but maybe you should.
Well, you are a white guy, so you
Yeah.
really have the urge to, I think. The other movie you're gonna you're gonna want to tell me to see is Die Hard.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that goes without saying. Yeah.
You know, Logan makes a good point. Bobby seems to know a lot about the mafia for someone who recently questioned their existence. And I would like to point out that if you hold your tattoo upside down, it is an M.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh, I can't face the M to the camera. So, oh, there we go.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
The,
Interesting.
it looks just like the mafia's logo.
Okay, another thing to add about this before we record the last bit, and then I should probably go see my family. Baroness von Sketch. Look up Baroness von Sketch Die Hard. And it's one of their best sketches. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Very short. I highly recommend. It doesn't let me link things in the YouTube chat, so Baroness von Sketch Die Hard. It's very funny. All right.
Well, we do have a quick email to get to.
Yeah.
All right. Maura, we have an email.
Yay.
Do you want to read it to me and then I'll do it, or how do you want it? Let's do this.
I'll read it. Let's go. Bobby and Maura. Homeopathy teaches us that I can take a pumpkin spice latte, dump it into a swimming pool-sized cistern, and have the same flavor, same caffeine from every cup I then dispense from this concoction, as was in the original cup. Mike from Denver. Mike in Denver, rather.
Yeah, we talked about homeopathy not too long ago, or I think I mentioned it offhand. Maybe we were talking about homeopathy, and so I think that's what led to this question: the idea that if you dump a pumpkin spice latte into a swimming pool, that you would get mega pumpkin spice latte and filling the swimming pool.
Yeah.
No, Mike, you misunderstand how homeopathy works.
Oh boy.
I'm laughing because works is should be in quotes.
Generous.
Okay.
Generous term.
So according to the people who do homeopathy, when you dilute the substance, it actually gives it the property of curing the ailment that would be caused by the original substance in a healthy person. Okay, let me say that again in another way. What they believe in, what homeopaths believe, is in this principle called like cures like. And what they think is a substance that causes a symptom in a healthy person,
Mm.
it will cure, it should be able to cure that same symptom in someone suffering, right?
Right.
So if this sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. Just by
So
the
let's
by the
say,
way,
let's say I had an allergic reaction and my eyes wouldn't stop watering.
right?
What I want to do is I want to take an onion, throw it in a pool, take a drop out of that pool, and put that in my eye.
Right. So that's a really good example. Yes, because onions in a healthy person would cause your eyes to water and maybe swell up
Hmm.
a little bit, right?
Hmm.
So the idea here is if you take onion or onion skin, you dilute it down by a bunch, then it should be able to, in a person suffering from that same symptom, it should help
Hmm.
cure it. Like cures like, right?
Mm.
But it's not quite that simple. Also, by the way, this is something fun to think about. What would pumpkin spice lattes cause? What symptoms do pumpkin spice lattes cause in a healthy person?
I think they would cause the wearing of sweaters,
Okay, so that's
over decorating of gourds.
over decorating.
I think that would be a major one. I think possibly a little bit of mania, just a hair of mania
Yeah.
in anticipation of the PSLs. Those would be the top 3, I think.
Yeah, so if you are someone who's suffering from the urge to over decorate gourds in the holiday season, then perhaps diluting a pumpkin spice latte to infinitesimal degrees and then drinking that would cure you of that.
I see.
That's the idea, right? So, but it's a little bit more ridiculous than that, Maura. Because you can't just pour this substance into a bunch of water and dilute it and expect it to have this magical property of like curing like.
Okay.
The diluting process in homeopathy is a process called successions, and not the HBO series. It has nothing to do with that. But it's called successions, and what you do is you add the substance to some amount of water, usually like one in a ratio of 1 to 10 or 1 in 100. So like if we use your onions example, you would take a small amount of like onion juice, and you would put it in 1 part onion juice to 100 parts water.
Okay.
And you dilute that, and then you would, according to the original homeopath, Hahnemann, I can't remember his first name. It's not important. He's a quack. You would shake it vigorously in order to do this.
Vigorous shaking?
That's an important step. And when he did it, he prescribed shaking it vigorously by smacking it against a leather pillow.
As you normally do when you want to shake something vigorously.
So you dilute it 1 part onion juice to 100 parts water. You shake it vigorously by a certain amount of times, and then you're not done. Because then you take 1 part of this dilution that you just made, this succession that you just made, and then you add that to another 100 parts water.
Got it.
And then you shake it vigorously again. Now you have 1 in 10,000. And that's called a 2C dilution. C meaning 100. You've diluted it by 100 2 times, so 2C. Now then you would do it again. Take 1 bit of that tiny bit of water and add it to 100 parts fresh water after that, and shake it vigorously against a leather pillow again. Then you would have 3C, and you do this. And he said that the optimal successions are 30C.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you do this 30 times.
Holy moly.
Now, you can do it less, like 20C or even 10C. But he said the more you do it, the more potent it should get.
Oh boy.
Yeah. The more potent it should get. And in fact, don't worry about doing the math. Do the math if you find math fun like I do. But if you do the math, if you get up to, I don't know, I think it's like 20C or maybe a little less or maybe a little bit more, somewhere around 20C, you literally get to a point where the odds that you will have even 1 molecule of the original substance
Mm.
in your tincture, they call them, in your
Mm-hmm.
tincture of homeopathic solution is infinitesimal. Like there's
Mm.
no chance that you will even have one single molecule of that onion juice
Wow.
in that. But he said just go further to 30C, do this 1 in 100, 30 successive times, and it will be potent, and it will definitely cure your watery eyes, Mora.
Well, I guess I'll try that next time.
Yeah, so that's how homeopathy. The funny thing, I mentioned leather pillows, right? Do you know why they thought it was or why he thought it was leather pillows? Is because
Is it what he
apparently
had lying around?
no, apparently, back when he was developing this idea about homeopathic solutions, you would make it and then you would transport it in a saddlebags on horseback, and
Okay.
he found that apparently the ones that had traveled long distances in saddlebags on horseback were more potent than other ones.
Ah.
That's what he thought. And so he thought that
Mm-hmm.
it must have something to do with horsehair and pillows, or leather. So he would make pillows out of leather filled with horsehair that you would smack it against to I guess simulate it traveling on horseback.
Wow.
This is why the Australian I don't know if it was the Australian government or the Australian like equivalent of their American Medical Association or whatever in Australia. They literally no, it wasn't in Australia. So Australia did outlaw homeopathy being sold
Mm.
in pharmacies, but
Okay.
in the UK is what I'm thinking of. They had a whole thing where they were trying to get the parliament to take a look at this, and they literally said that homeopathy was, the government said this was, they equated it to witchcraft.
Yes, you've mentioned that
Yeah.
before.
And
It
this is
is
why they
yeah.
equate it to witchcraft.
It's just yeah, there's you can see sort of the pattern of superstitious thought and
Yeah.
the lack of attempting to disprove your theory. It's
Right,
very
right.
clear.
Hahnemann thought that this process of smacking it against a leather pillow and the shaking vigorously was supposed to activate the, quote, vital energies, unquote, of the diluted substance. So, So Mike from Denver, yes, if you take the pumpkin spice latte and you take a little drop and do these successive dilutions, then it perhaps will cure your urge to decorate gourds and wear sweaters in the fall, if you so desire. So
All right. Well,
good,
now
good
we
luck.
know how
Good
to
luck.
cure a PSL.
Don't be a slacker. Go for 50, says Dweeb. Little side note, I didn't want to say this in the thing because it would have made that email go longer. But did I ever tell you that I did in a speech class? I did a live demonstration.
Oh, yes, you did tell me this.
I was talking about homeopathy. It was a persuasive speech. We were supposed to be doing persuasive speeches, and I was teaching people about. See, I was always a science communicator even before I knew I wanted to do science podcasts. I did in this class a persuasive speech trying to explain to people that homeopathy was bogus. And so I did the whole speech, explained what the homeopaths thought, how they thought it worked, how the dilutions worked, and then I did to show how ridiculous this idea is. I went through the process of doing successive dilutions of Drano, which famously. I don't know about famously, but you used to hear
Poisonous?
yeah, it's poisonous. People would like try to commit suicide drinking Drano, right?
Yeah, it's not good to ingest.
It's not. So the idea of like, ooh, it makes it more potent. So I put it into this, and I did in front of everyone, did this using 2-liter bottles and all these things. I did the successive dilutions while I was giving the speech.
Did you do 30?
I didn't do 30, but I did something like 10 of them while I was giving the speech. It was very difficult. I was out of breath a little bit.
Yeah.
But 10 dilutions is still potent, according to this theory,
This guy.
and then I drank the entire 2-liter bottle of water.
2 liters.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, that was the most
I wouldn't be thinking about the
challenging
Drano.
part. And I'll tell you what, Maura. Even after I gave the speech, even after I went through the whole ridiculous thing, as I was drinking that water, I heard people gasp. Like they were worried about me.
Well, this is the thing. Like, yes, I hear what you're saying, infinitesimal, all this, but like, they watched you do that whole thing. Like, and seeing someone put Drano into a thing you're gonna drink out of, like, that's gonna be really, really hard to move past.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Maybe that's the
I
reason
get
that
it.
there were gasps. Maybe. You're right.
For sure. They didn't think like, oh, he's gonna die of Drano. They probably were like, ah,
Yeah,
just,
there's
just
Drano
a
in there.
reaction.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. You
even
know
though
what?
there really
I
wasn't.
should have given them the benefit of the doubt like you're doing now. I think you're right. Probably they might not have really thought about the fact that the math behind all those dilutions, how there was almost no Drano in what I was drinking, right?
Yeah, and you knew that, but like, I think it would even give me pause. I'd be like, ugh.
Right.
But
sure.
even though I know the math, it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing.
Right. But I didn't come up with that on my own. Famously, there's a famous he's no longer alive, but James the Amazing Randi was a magician.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah. He James Randi would always do this on stage where he would do I didn't do this, but because you have to be safe about this for different reasons, but he would talk about homeopathy on stage, and then he would take and consume on stage and like 1 or 2 entire bottles full of homeopathic sleeping pills. And the reason I didn't do that is because the other thing about homeopathy is that it's not regulated by the FDA.
Yeah, you can put anything in there.
Yeah, you could put anything in there, and they always did their due diligence before this. He did that, right? So they made sure that what he was taking was not going to kill him.
Yeah.
But I don't have the means to be able to do all that, so I just decided to do the dilutions. But it was fun to do.
That's cool. I like it.
Ready to close out the show?
Should we wrap this up?
Yeah. All right, Maura. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of All Around Science. I had a really good time talking to you.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And thanks to everybody in who listened live. It was great to have you in the chat.
Yeah, we always love doing these live shows. And remember that if you'd like to attend a live show and join us while we're talking about science and chat with us, but we had a lot of chatting between segments today.
We did.
It's no longer, you've heard us talk about this before, and we always then follow it up with join the Patreon. But you don't have to join the Patreon anymore because we just do this for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is get on YouTube whenever we announce that we're going to be doing it. So just pay attention to the show, get on our Discord, and pay attention on Facebook. We announce when the upcoming live shows are going to be. Join us live for our live recordings. Yep. But thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for everybody who's watching live. If you've got any questions or feedback, you can email us at contact@allaroundscience.com.
We're on socials at All Around Sci or All Around Science.
My name's Bobby.
I'm Maura.
And we'll see you next week for some more science stuff.
Don't join the Patreon. Great pitch.
It was kind of an anti Patreon pitch, wasn't it?
Yeah. We don't want your money.
I was in a real talkative mood tonight, Maura.
Yeah, me too. I feel like we haven't chatted in a while.
It feels that way.
The last few episodes, I feel like we've been very business.
You know why? I think it's because the last few times that we've had to record, we've had to start late. Just, because of scheduling. Like, no reason other than that. But, and so when we start, sometimes we'll start at 10 p.m. Eastern, and it's like, all right, let's just get this done.
Yeah. Plow through it.
Yeah, so it was nice to just be able to chat. And also, I don't have to get up in the morning because tomorrow's election day, so everybody's off school.
Really? Everybody's off school?
Yeah, national holiday.
It's a holiday?
Well, when I say a holiday, I mean like a bank holiday. Like nobody has to work
Huh.
Well, the government is government stuff and schools. I think the reason that they close schools has a lot to do with the fact that schools are often polling stations.
Right.
So people,
Same here, but we never
yeah.
close the schools on election day. That's weird.
How do they have school and people voting at the same time?
I don't know, they like do it in the gym.
It seems like a lot of work.
Well, I don't think it's easy, but like it's funny too because I hear from Americans about like long lines and waiting and whatever. It's never taken me more than 15 minutes to vote.
We don't make it easy to vote in this country where we
I had
where we love to talk about the privilege to vote.
I had to fill out an American tax form for
What?
work.
Why?
We were involved in like an American study, and I was like, "This is awful."
Yeah, we do that every year. More.
It was so terrible.
Do you have to fill out tax forms at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
There's
okay,
tax
okay.
forms, but they're very basic. Like, and they like walk you through. They're like, go to line 27. And you're like, okay. This had like 4 different numbering systems.
Okay.
It was 8 pages long. There was
Yeah.
like, I had to like scan through to find all the things. They made me cite the tax law that I was enacting. I was like, what? Why? I am not a lawyer. What am I doing here? It was
Wow.
so confusing. The only way I got through it was with the help of ChatGPT because I was like, please, what is this form? What is it talking about? I'm confused.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was insane.
Logan, your daughter's in school. Doesn't she go to a private school? Or she doesn't go to a private school. Well, I'm glad that my kids have the day off from school, so I am not going to.
Well, happy election. We got to wrap this up, though, because I got to go.
Okay. Let's wrap it up. Let's get this done. Moore's got places to be, and I would love to go to bed. So.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And
wait, we got to do our cold open.
Oh my God, there's more to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I should be doing right now. Okay, what did I talk about? Terror birds.
Terror birds.
Terror birds are bigger than we thought they were. That's easy.
Love it. That's good. Okay, ready?
Yep.
On today's episode,
terror birds are bigger than we thought they were.
And we talk about where hot springs come from.
All that and more today on All Around Science.
Oh, it's my husband. Hello, husband.
I too would like to go to bed, he saes. All right,
well,
fine.
Nothing's stopping you, Scott.
I will release your spouse, Scott.
You can go to bed.
That's true. All right. Well,
all right. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna also stop the stream. Thanks for hanging out. We always like.
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.